Right. I'll quickly check what's going on now, right?
Yeah, it's currently it's waiting to come on. It says waiting for the invert podcast.
Okay.
Let me just refresh it though. Let me see. There we are. Yeah, we're up.
We're up. There we go. It's not like last week got us in the shambles. Already got a viewer. Pretty good.
Yeah, I think that might be me.
Oh, is it? Ah. Well, let's give it a minute or two, see if anyone joins up. If not, just talk and people watch it after.
Yeah, totally. So what you can do as well, Wes, I don't know if you're up for it, but you can click on our names and make us moderators if we're in there. So then we can then sort the chat out later.
Moderate. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then it just sort of helps.
So I'll add you lot as moderators after the streams. I can't do it on this app, so after I'll go on to YouTube because I'm on my phone, so I don't want it to cut out.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's the first time I've actually spoken like face to face, isn't it? Because we just message on your page usually.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose I introduce myself.
Yeah.
Or Wes, I don't know if you want to introduce. It's your podcast, mate.
Well, you two are part of it, so it's all ours. So you two go first.
Over to you, Finn.
Okay.
So Matt, you go first.
Oh.
Finn, you go first. Go on.
All right, go on, Finn.
I'm Finn. I run the Exotic Emporium UK, which is my Instagram and YouTube channel. And yeah, I keep a lot of different things. I'm looking over at my collection now. My scorpion's out. And yeah.
Cool.
There we go. Nat?
Yeah, so I'm Nat. I'm Somerset Spiders. So I've got a YouTube channel that's just started. Been keeping spiders now for about 1.5 years, 2 years. Mainly tarantulas, but I have a couple of true spiders and different things. But yeah, it's going to be a nice podcast to talk about communal tarantulas. So I'm looking forward to it because I'm learning. So
still learning.
Yeah.
I'm Wes. I used to be in Respiration Station. I used to do live streams and videos. I've kept multiple species of spiders, true spiders, scorpions, but basically everything, and reptiles. I used to breed stuff as well. And I used to do them in the shop. But I don't really do stuff like that anymore because I don't have a lot of animals anymore. So that's us. Surprised you could understand me because my Bristolian accent is on. Oh crap!
Don't start, mate. Like the amount of slack I get online for my accent, mate. It's something else.
The difference is you speak clearly. I mumble.
That's because I'm Somerset. See, I'm not Bristolian.
True.
So, but I get called Farmer Boy quite a lot. So,
Farmer Boy, even tractor.
I live with a fella from just outside of Taunton, and we also make fun of him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a city boy, so I'm safe.
Cool.
Right, so should we go on to this then?
Yeah.
Okay, so first things, the tarantula communals. Should they be allowed, and what do you think about it?
Ooh. So, it's an interesting topic, isn't it?
It's a bit risky to talk about.
Well, it's a bit risky to talk about, but I wonder where the idea of like should they be allowed, where does that come from? Now, if you're thinking about a communal such as the Balfouri communal, for instance, they interact really well together, and there has been some fantastic information that's been gathered from let's just do some name dropping. So like Tom Moran has got some really good stuff on there about them. Jaden from Mr. Grindler's Creatures, they've got some brilliant information about thinking about how they actually interact with each other. So they've observed them tapping on each other when they meet up. They're not cannibalizing the Balfouris. So, and they tend to spend a lot of time within a communal burrow, and there's just like this constant study going on about how they probably are a true communal, though not in the wild, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a bit confusing. Whereas when you think about pokies, so when we're thinking about the Pokelitherias, so they're what is the one that most people keep? I know
Regalis.
Regalis. So most
Yeah.
people keep a Poketheria Regalis communal. There has been there's conversations about in their natural habitat how they survive. So if
The flooding.
flooding exactly, they've been observed to be in trees, but is that more a case of it's because they have to?
Yeah, because they're forced together. It's not like they
yeah.
can just survive together on the like. Of course, the Alboros, they're up trees and stuff anyway, but they do sometimes forage on the ground. Rarely, but they do sometimes.
Yeah.
But you don't always see them interacting unless it's mating. But sometimes they're forced into little spaces, and well, if they all fight, I know they don't think the same way as we do. Like if we all fight, we're gonna die. But there's some natural behaviour there where they do survive a bit. But you do get instances where they all do just kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there is the idea of like it wouldn't make evolutionary sense that if they are trying to survive, say for instance, flooding, that's been happening for millions of years. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a new thing. For them to eat each other, for instance, they kind of like have to get through a situation.
Yeah, exactly. Because they need to eat, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So doing that, and but also I was reading today. Whose was I reading? I was reading Mike's Basic Tarantulas.
Yeah.
Around the idea of if you give them too much space. So if you give the pokies regardless too much space but communal, that's when they become territorial and when they could be cannibalistic. But you know, like how much is too little space as well?
Exactly. Because I've heard the same thing about Balfours as well.
Mhm.
You know, if you give them too much space, they kind of determine the larger areas their own territory, and that's why it seems that they seem to cannibalize more if you give them too much space.
Yeah.
But as you said, how do we know what's the right amount?
Yeah, because each spider could be different. Some spiders like little spaces, and some spiders like such as males, they need a bigger area of space to find a female because that's what it naturally is in the wild. But females, they stay in their burrow or like in one sort of section for a long period of time waiting for the male.
Mm. Yeah, it's. I think there is a lot of controversy around it. Definitely, thinking about how these creatures kind of get along, but then you see the Balfouri communals, and you're like, this really works, and it's
Yeah.
something absolutely fascinating to keep. If you don't feed them, obviously, if you don't
They're
feed
gonna
them
kill each
enough,
other.
they become cannibalistic. But there was one that I was so I didn't know that the H. gigas was a communal, could come under a communal
Yeah, I heard about
tarantula.
that because as long as they're raised from young, they usually get on alright, don't they? Because
Yeah.
like people
When
have been
sack
known to
mates
breed
generally.
them, have multiple from an egg sac, and then keep them together, simply because there's so many of them. Like it's hard to keep them, so they keep like 25 of them together. Like I've known people, like from businesses, they don't trade anymore as much, but like and for spider shops sometimes. I've heard this from people. Don't know if it's an actual source, but they breed H. gigas or they get one from the wild, and say they have an egg sac that's unexpected. They do keep them together for a long period of time and have well sometimes up to no casualties.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's a misconception, and I think we have to be really careful when we're thinking about talking about communal spiders.
Yeah.
That people don't think, right, I can go out and buy some communal spiders and they're going to survive, because there is actually a chance that your communal won't be successful.
Exactly, and there are quite strict parameters for keeping them to make sure that everything stays in order. It's a balance that we have
Yeah,
to kind of maintain.
it's
Well,
keeping the
personally,
homeostasis, isn't it, of it? It's keeping them like perfect.
well, personally, who here would keep a any species of pokey communal? Like personally, out of your opinion, what do you think about them?
For me, it really depends on more information coming out and
Mhm.
the more research that is done into it. Especially when I look at tarantulas, I try and mimic as much as possible how they're living in the wild and those kind of circumstances. So for me, I think it really depends on doing more research into how they exist in the wild and the parameters of how they might exist communally there.
Mhm. I agree with that. I also think that uh, if it's done correctly, so for instance, I name drop Tom Moran again. He discusses about how he's trialing Regalis Poketheria Regalis communal and how it's quite successful. But there's definitely something that's happening in his communal that there is always seems to be one that's just not as big as the others. So
But the
I
food
think,
chain.
pardon.
So that's like the food chain then comes into about because the like
Yeah.
dominancy because the bigger ones eat first, maybe,
Oh,
or it's just about
mo-
genetics.
most definitely. I think it's what the bigger ones will get more food.
Yeah.
That's how it sort of happens. If you look more at, say, the Balfouri communals, that's different. They sort of co-eat, so they will share prey. You'll watch them fight over something, but they will share it. Whereas,
Yeah, but you do see videos, photos of them on like 3 or 4 tarantulas on one insect
yes,
sometimes, and
yeah,
that's quite interesting because like they co-inhabit and feed with each other. Like
mhm.
it's not just spiders in like they actually in some sort of way not bond, but they live together and like
They cohabit, don't they?
yeah, they cohabit. That's just the word for it, isn't it?
Yeah, they cohabit with each other. Going back on your question though, Wes, around would I keep one? Yes, I think I would, and the my reasoning behind why I would is because I would like to gather that information. So I would like to collect that information to see if it is successful. I would be devastated if I bought, say, five Regalis and put them in an enclosure together and there's only one surviving. Not because of the financial costs, even though that probably be quite a big cost, but because it wasn't successful.
Yeah,
But then if we think about that from a scientific standpoint and a learning standpoint, the information gathered from that is actually really invaluable.
Exactly. That's as I said. I'd like to if I were to keep them, I'd want to have more information on them, but we can't really get more information without trial and error, which is unfortunate. If there is more error than anything, but it's sometimes necessary to further our understanding.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
right. So right, this will be the last thing, like, so we'll move on to the next subject. But
Okay.
I think the way it should be done is people should have like a multiple enclosures set up with different sizes, like some newslings, second star up to juvenile to adult, from growing up, and see how they all do from birth rather than from hatching in
Yeah.
communal. Because some will kill each other, and they should tweak the environments a little bit. Some environmental factors can change if they can live with each other as well, and they should find the perfect environment, sizing and stuff. Like just get the most information they can to see what works best and see if they are actually cohabitable. Because
Yeah. No.
then it would save
Most
thousands
definitely.
of spiders from people dying, and then it's also the financial risk you get with it as well. Because it's not just them dying, because it is sad when they do, but it's also a massive financial burden. Say you spend a
Mhm.
£300 on the communal, and they end up killing each other. That's £300 gone, and plus then you've lost some beautiful spiders. Because it's not nice when your spider dies. I know it personally.
It's
So I
also
think
not nice being responsible for it either. I think
it's
that's
not.
something we have to be like really
Exactly.
aware of. It's not just about the spiders. It's us. So I have this thing in my videos where I talk about how we're caretakers for our spiders.
Oh,
Like
definitely.
like I don't own the spiders. I take care of them.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a different kind of thing, and to know that you'd be responsible for it. But Wes, I'm sorry to cut you off. I have something that I before we go off of the Pokelfaria topic.
Go ahead, mate.
Um, we talk about the Regalis, but then you see that Petco over at the Dark Den, he has a successful
Metallica, isn't it?
Poecilotheria metallica
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
thing, and there's not much information out on that.
No.
And I think if I was to have a communal, it would have to be a Metallica communal.
Oh yeah,
just
because
because
it would just be
because of the
stunning.
colors. It would be stunning, and it would be beautiful.
Because their
I think
luminous
as well,
blue color and like almost
Yeah.
metallic is gorgeous. I'd have a Metallica in general. To be honest, I just can't afford them.
I
You
think
got-
they're
you
great,
got-
and I think
Expensive.
they're a smaller size as well, and I think it'd be easier to maintain the correct environment for a Metallica communal than for any other in the genus.
Yeah, most definitely. I think so. And Wes, you say you can't afford them, but you can start off with a sling. I got a sling from Dave's Little Beasties, and it's growing up lovely. It hasn't got its adult colours yet, but it's beautiful. And it only costs £25.
Actually, to be fair, I have raised stuff from slings. I'm just a very impatient person. Because their growth rate
almost
is
all
the
of mine are
fastest
slings.
that you get a male.
What's that,
But
Finn?
no
All
one's-
of yours are slings.
Oh, yeah, literally, I've only got one, or yeah, I've just got my Pultacatl vagans, which is a subadult maybe.
My first tarantula.
All the rest of mine are slings.
To be fair, most of the tarantulas I have had have been donated or have won in giveaways. So I've only ever bought probably about max 5 tarantulas, and I've had about 30, 40 of them. Okay, so should we move on to the next subject, or is there anything anyone else would like to say?
No, yeah, let's move on to the next
Let's
subject.
move on. Yeah.
Okay, so number 2, how to get into invertebrate keeping, such as scorpions, spiders, and what's the best beginner species for certain things? Hi Shady, how you doing? Like, what's like the best? Like, if you could start out of any sort of invert and a species, and that includes the temperature, like the setup, humidity, venom, how defensive they are. Like, what do you think is the best out of everything? Like, I'm not just about getting some isopods.
This is controversial, Wes. You can't go asking us this question.
I am very biased, so I actually came
This is
from
what I want, the
mantis keeping.
biasness. I want everyone's personal opinion.
I came from mantis keeping, and the first thing I ever kept was an adult female ghost mantis that I got given by one of my university lecturers. And literally, I was hooked from that moment. And I ended up getting, I think, a mystery box from the Cheeky Mantis, and it came with like
Very nice.
2 a Hiradula membranacea pair, and I just loved them. They were fantastic and so easy to keep because they didn't need that much heat. In like the 20 to 25 Celsius range was perfect to keep them, and there's a lot of fun.
Actually, talking about the cheeky mantis, I bought a pair of Hiradula membranacea from them. Oh, it was going so well. The female molted outright. The male molted. I thought, oh yeah, it's fine. Then his abdomen ruptured. That was amazing. It was so. I had him for about 3-4 months from pre-sub adult because they're slow molters. So when I got to the last molt, I fed them up a bit because I wanted them to mature, which you shouldn't do. I don't really agree with doing that, but I wanted to have the breeding process. So yeah, like I didn't fatten them up or anything. I just gave them a slightly bigger meal now and then. Because like if you fatten them up too much, it can actually become harmful for the animal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that's another interesting thing. Yeah, because with mantises it's a little bit different than say tarantulas, where they can take down a larger prey items, but they will sometimes just try and eat the whole thing, and that can cause issues where they overeat, they get too fat, and they can throw up as well.
Yeah, they can block, they get blockages and stuff. This can be really unhealthy and fatal for them.
Exactly, but in terms of getting into the hobby, I think that they were fantastic because they're really simple setups with a fabric mesh top, just a couple of things in there that help them climb up to the top, and as long as you're misting them so they can drink off themselves every day, it's perfect.
What do you think, Nat?
Oh, what a question, eh?
I've got so many opinions. Like, there's so many things you can choose. It's hard, isn't it?
So if we're thinking about getting into the hobby, so let's think about how to get into invert keeping. So a lot of people, what we do is we just go and buy a spider or buy an invert of some form and then do the research and figure it all out as we go. That's how I did it. There was one night where I think I'd owned my hognose for about a month, and I was like, oh, I fancy getting something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And my first spider, Nandu chromatus. So I ordered it, I bought it, and then I researched it, and I was like, oh shit, what have I got?
They
Oh,
can
sorry,
be
didn't mean to swear,
useful
sorry.
bastards.
I was like,
Oh,
oh
sorry,
my
sorry.
goodness, what have I got coming? So yeah, I did the research and did everything. I think when we think about getting into the hobby, it depends what kind of personality you've got. So like you said, Wes, you're impatient. So I doubt you want a sling that hides in a burrow, or someone that's impatient would want that. You might want something that's a little bit more active, maybe a bit more of a display animal. So you'd probably be looking at buying like a sub-adult. And
Yeah.
I think that scares a lot of people off, actually, is the price of a sub-adult.
Definitely.
I think, if people are listening to this podcast, also be aware that tarantulas can live like, they can be costly.
They can live like 30 years.
They can live for up to like 30 years. Some can live a lot longer. Males can live a maximum. Some of them can live a maximum of 2 years. Some of them can live, between 9 to 10 years. If you're thinking about maybe some of the bigger species, but when we talk about them living that long, they're not adults. They're just really slow at maturing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's about that understanding. But I think when you think about how to get into the hobby, I think it's just about there's so many good resources out there. For me, it was Tarantula Collective that started my
Absolutely, yeah.
my biggest my biggest, like, oh my god, this is amazing. Let's think about that. Then we went on to Petco, then Tarantula Cat, and so on and so forth, and it starts snowballing. But by absorbing all of that information, you can kind of go, yeah, what do I actually want?
Exactly. There's so many options, and I think you can really, with so many options, you can tailor it really to what you really want out of your pet. And it's as you said, it's just about that doing that research. But I think there's a lot of, as well as really good research, like the Tarantula Collective and everything we've discussed, but there's also a lot of really bad information out there that if you're just Googling it, it's right at the top as well.
Yeah, but even some websites, like there's a website, I'm not going to name them, but I did earlier. They have certain species of mantis. They put most of the mantis species with the same care. Even a devil flower mantis, which are very hard to keep, has the same care as a Asian flower mantis. No, because if you keep that at 60 to 80 humidity and 24 degrees, you're going to kill it. It needs heat bulbs to get to about 28 to 30, 31 degrees, and it needs a full mesh enclosure because they have.
Idola mantis needs to be up towards 40 degrees Celsius. Idola mantis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's really detrimental when you're reading these things, and if you don't know, then you don't know. So you're gonna struggle.
Because I actually messaged this company itself, and I just got blanks. They said they told me the care was fine, but it wasn't. So you try to give the correct information because it was on a group as well. I think it was on the Tarantula community page or something. A few people tried telling them, but they just didn't care because I think a lot of ego comes into a bit of it as well because people think they're right over other people because one thing works for them, but that may not work for 10 other people.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And to carry on about what you're saying as well is, so we can spend a lot of time looking at Google and watching videos. There's some brilliant videos out there. There's also some really bad videos out there. I think the way that you develop yourself is one by getting the animals and experiencing it yourself. A lot of it's common sense, so you'll figure it out. But then also you'll find yourself joining a community. So
that's the part that helps the most, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're trying to join a community, when everyone just shouts at you for doing nothing.
Yeah.
I think for me, especially the biggest help was joining Discord because Facebook's great. And I think now they're introducing these group chat systems, which is really beneficial as well.
It's sort of okay, but I get what you mean.
I think it's still a bit clunky and it needs some tweaking. But for me, joining Discord and there are numerous servers on there, especially the larger ones, and they can really help getting that real time answers, and you can kind of communicate with people, and you can kind of gauge how knowledgeable other people are, and
Yeah.
Usually it's quite well moderated so that you can, as you said, that some people have a bit of an ego with it, and they will insist that their care is right, but you can get a larger consensus of care guides and things
Yeah.
from
And
in
it's like
real
most
time.
people just read one thing, like that's how to care right now. The best thing to do is go on groups, go on websites, and talk to people, because then you get 3 opinions, and then you can make your own concept on that by the information. Because like, say if like 2 people or 3 people say, oh, they need this humidity, then one thinks there's not, then you'll make your own mind up on it. Because then, of course, people do it off their own opinion as well, and then you can kind of gauge what to do. Then it becomes natural.
Yeah, most definitely, and also, so we need to think about the information that we gather as well. So, if you go to one source, let's say, for instance, let's change the subject. It's not inverts. Let's say I want to find out what color the sky is, and I go to one source and it says the sky's green, and I go, wow, the sky's green, and I look out the window and go, well, that must be green. Or I can go to several different sources, 7 different places, and a lot of places are saying no, it's blue. So it's about that. It's about gathering that information.
Exactly.
Like if we think about this terminology. Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Aaron.
If we think about the terminology of if you're comfortable, they're comfortable. Oh my god, I hate that.
So what, let's
Disagree
just
with
all
that.
say three species of any sort of invert that you think would be a good starter species. So I'll start off one, but it also depends, because some spiders have their own personality. Some that's docile, but then they can try to rip your arm off. So I'm just saying, out of the majority, one, Hiridola membranacea. I always say it wrong, but which is the giant Asian mantis.
It's a brilliant starter mantis, isn't it?
2,
it really is.
Apopolosus, also known formerly as the Brachypelma apopolosus, because they're quite docile. They're slow growing, depending if you've got a male or female.
Yeah.
And I've had about 10 of them, and I've never had an issue. So, and for the third one,
geez, I've got to think of 3.
Scorpion wise, let's just say giant Asia, but they're very temperamental, because they can be little bastards.
I think for
you
me,
don't need to say 3 if you can't, by the way. Sorry, guys.
Thanks.
It's all right. I'd have to say, for a mantis, I think the ghost mantis is a perfect starter. It doesn't get very large. It's got probably easier care than even the giant Asian.
They're pretty much immortal.
Very, very hardy, and they're fantastic. They can be a little bit picky with their eating. They prefer flying prey usually, but other than that, they're great. I think number 2 for me would probably be some sort of Brachypelma. Personally, I like the Brachypelma baemi, just because I love the coloration on that. Again, a really lovely, easy species to care for, and I personally would advocate for getting a sling and just jumping into it, because there's a sense of satisfaction and it's so rewarding to watch it grow, especially since they're so slow to grow as well.
Well, my first rancher was actually a Brachypelma's Smithy, so there we go.
And then number 3, I'd have to go with a Pandinus Imperator, if you can find one, because they are fantastic as far as scorpions go.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm just looking over my shelf at the moment.
You can say one if you want, Matt. You don't have to say all 3.
Yeah, well, so I have to go with the giant Asian mantis that you said. I think if you're going to be getting into mantids, it's a really good one to start with. I didn't even want a mantis. I got it in a mystery box, and I was like, "Oh no, I've got a mantis." I've fallen head over heels for it. I really have. It's got such a personality. He's such a dude. I've sexed him. It's a like.
What to it?
Huh?
Nothing. Crap joke.
Yeah. Okay. So, and if we're gonna go for spiders, this sort of like comes with like a slight little warning. but it is a very good spider because it is out, especially when it gets to sub-adult, like juvenile sub-adult.
Yeah.
Is the Lacedonia parabana, the LP. Their urticating hairs are a little bit.
Right. So if you're a child, keep your parents around when you're dealing with them, unless you want a
Yeah.
massive hair in your eye. And they can be a bit temperamental as well sometimes.
Yeah,
Most of them are okay.
they can be. However, if you're calm around them and you're really thinking about what you're doing, you know, generally it's okay, and they've got a brilliant feeding response.
Oh, they do. They can eat for days, like me.
What else? I have got one in mind. I've just got to get my list up. So I'm dyslexic, so I struggle to keep long names in my head. I actually posted a video about it today on my thing.
Everyone go check that
out. Oh yeah, go look at my YouTube channel. Do not get a feather leg baboon as your first tarantula. Most definitely not. Not a calcetum.
The most venomous spider in the world. Well, tarantula, not spider.
Yeah. So Asamani, so an Aphalmopalma. So I think anything from the genus of Aphalmopalma is a really good species of spider to start with, actually.
Definitely. I've had a sub-adult female Aphalmopalma calcodes. She was so laid back and chilled.
Yeah, no, they really are. They are slow growing, though. When they get the size, they are beautiful to look at.
They are gorgeous. Yeah,
they have a brilliant feeding response. So my Samani, I got my first one through the spider shop. So I went to the Taunton show, and it was in a gimp box, so missing a leg and stuff, as they call it. Yeah, and I was a bit like, oh, it's not eating that much. It molted, and now its personality's changed. It's so much better. It's got a tiny little stub leg. It's like take my strong hand kind of thing.
I made it myself.
Yeah, but they're really good ones to have because they're out and they have a good feeding response, especially if people are thinking of getting a spider, a tarantula for their children. It's something that's not just going to sit there. You're not going to just have a pet hole. You will be able to see it.
Yeah,
and they're beautiful when they have a fresh molt. They have like a beautiful iridescent bluey black to them. So that would be that. Sorry, I talk a lot.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think this is a fantastic genus as a whole to have. And as well, I'd also say the Tultecatl genus is another wonderful genus.
Even the vegans.
I've just had a fresh molt from my vegan, and she was beautiful, like all black with a bright red abdomen, and it's just a wonderful. She's always out, so that's another one I'd probably add to my list.
Come on, guys, we forgot the curly hair.
Yeah,
I'm the curly hair.
Come on,
I said the curly hair.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Sorry.
Yeah,
so Wes, I've got a question, Wes. Actually,
go on, then.
We got a couple people in chat. I don't know whether asking them what they think would be a good, starter spider.
Yeah, definitely. So
because otherwise we're just mouthing off.
So what's everyone else's opinions? Even if you're watching this after the live stream, so put it in the comments. So what's everyone think?
Absolutely.
Because we'd love to know your opinion and input on the little chats we have. So even while we're talking, give us input and we'll read it.
Yeah.
Oh, so Aaron says a brachy, as in brachypelma.
Nice, Aaron. That's a very good choice, actually.
Definitely.
I've just got I got an Amelia not long ago, and it's wonderful.
Amelias are so pretty as well.
Aaron, I have to agree with you on the C versicolor. People are scared of C versicolors. They think that they're made out of thin
glass
paper.
That they're gonna smash.
But actually, they're really good.
Actually, my first tarantula was Caribbean University color, and it was as a sling. It was the most common thing ever.
That's another thing. I think that two of the spiders that are most bought is the C versicolor and Avicularia vicularia.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
people make the mistake of they buy them as tiny slings, and where they're a little bit more delicate
Yeah.
at that stage. If you're as long as your parameters are okay, I think it's fine, but they can be a little bit more delicate. But like you say, if you buy grown-on slings or juveniles,
And
you
they're a lot
won't really
easier
have
to care
that
for.
issue. Yeah.
Sorry, everyone, but I think we've got a bit of a nutter in the chat. Shady, what are you doing with an OBT as your first tarantula?
Hey, you need to check out Shady Thing's channel.
Oh, definitely.
She's a skilled tarantula wrangler.
One of my first was a Samopius, a mini and a Samopius reduncus, and then immediately after that I got a Poecilotheria Tigrina Weselli. So
yeah, I think you need to. You'll hear in chats, in group chats, and communities and things. People are like Shady said, I started with an OBT, but you hear people that start with old worlds and they're successful with it. It just it depends
it
about
all
your
depends on
and
yeah.
And not every spider is going to be defensive or snappy. You do get some pretty mellow OBT. Like my OBT I had as a sling, to juvenile, it was so calm. Like it never, even my Kilibrachus Hohini, they're usually quite defensive. It never even bolted, nothing. It was so chilled out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
well,
I don't really have any spiders. I've got about 20 or so right now, and I couldn't really say that any of them are really that defensive. Maybe my Regalis is a little bit defensive, but that's about it.
This one up on look, my finger's nearly touching up on the shelf up here that I've just released my video on. Now that's defensive. That's the only one. But like, if you were to say start on old world, I'd probably suggest like the Ceratogyrus.
Yeah, definitely.
Old
Absolutely,
worlds.
they're wonderful.
They're a really good entry into old worlds. They burrow. They're just a little bit more chilled out. But don't get an old world as your first unless you've done your research.
Exactly. I think it all depends on. People often say, always start off with the new one things, but I think as long as you've done your research and you really know what you're getting into, you've done all the research and you can really understand what's going on, I don't really think there's an issue with starting with any species other than really advanced ones.
Well, I think it
in terms
depends
of the
what you've kept
husbandry.
before. Because they've
that as well.
kept like certain defensive reptile stuff, and you might be alright with them. But if you're coming off like from scratch, and maybe don't isn't you just had like fish and stuff, maybe don't go for that sort of species.
Exactly, it's very situational.
I have a good starter spider to think about actually that we haven't even talked about.
What's that?
A jumping spider.
Yeah, the regal jumping spider.
So actually, lots of people get into the hobby around getting a little Lucas spider, a little jumping spider, and that's definitely a really good starting place.
Definitely, I love them. I think they're almost like a cross between a mantis and a tarantula in this respect. They're just very they embody all the personable traits of the mantis. Like the way they look at you, and it seems like they're kind of trying to gauge you, and it's really interesting. And I got a Phidippus regius recently. Again, wonderful.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add one of them to my collection, I think.
Get the Florida. They're orangey color. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, no, I'll have a little look into that. I think I've got an idea for something in the future in the pipeline. So, and I need a nice sized jumping spider for this idea. It will all make sense. I'm being a bit mysterious, but hopefully I can show you on another podcast what's happening. But yeah.
Okay, so jumping spiders. Yes, should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go.
Okay, so what's everyone's favorite by choice suppliers in live food, substrates, cork barks, and inverts in general? So what's like everyone's sort of favorite to go to? People in the chat tell us as well. So Nat, let's start off with you.
Oh, this is tricky. This is really tricky, actually.
Because
I'm actually
you can think multiple if you
there's definitely multiple. If we were to think about let's think about live food. So I actually go down to my local pet shop. I'm lucky enough to have a local pet shop that's not pets at home, nothing like that. It is a family-run pet shop. That's where I get my feeders from, because I can go and have a little look at them.
Yeah.
And I was down there literally this morning picking some up and then going, hey, I think you need to chuck a little bit of cucumber in, like with your locusts or whatever. And they're really, really nice. So being able to go and do that is really good. When you're sort of thinking about maybe red runners, things like that. So I'm gonna be moving over to red runners once I get
Still go for lobsters. I've had them; they're horrible.
Yeah, but once I can get them set up, find a space to get them set up. But you'd be thinking like Portsmouth tarantulas.
Definitely,
they do really good deals. When we're thinking about like decor, at the moment I'm split between Bugnut and the Spider Shop.
Yeah,
it's a little bit so Bugnut for like the seed pods and things, because that's their thing. You know, they're quite new. They're a relatively new business. They've been around for a little while, but their seed pods and all of those sorts of decor, very good price, sort of things like that. And I love a bit of cork bark, so that's the Spider Shop. But with the Spider Shop, that's more. I save stuff for the Spider Shop when I go to shows. So hopefully I'm going to be at Bristol this year.
I will be
the Bristol Invert show. Oh, it'd be nice to catch up. And you can get a bag, like a huge bag of cork bark for £6-7. It's brilliant. So when we're thinking about like that kind of thing, you know, it's splitting across them. I'm going to be doing a series on my channel of comparing different online shops for ordering live animals. However, you know, you need to make sure that your collection doesn't grow too big.
Yeah.
I really like, I must say, I do really like Bugnut. I really like the Spider Shop.
We should be getting paid for this advertisement.
Maybe one day, huh?
Hopefully.
So I like them. I do actually have a Spider Shop affiliate link that I can share with you guys, and a discount code. So I'll get that out to you. Yeah. So I'm sort of like I'm trying the different ones. So if I haven't mentioned anyone, that's because I haven't ordered from them. And I think you can only really go on what your experience is from doing that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Okay, Finn, you want to give it a go?
Yeah, so I think it really depends, as you said, you know, it's splitting across depending on what you're wanting. For instance, for me, I really love the Spider Shop for all my like substrate and decor, as well as Bugnut for my decor and things. But when it comes to actually buying live animals, when it comes to mantises, I love to use Mantis Den. They are fantastic, and they're really good at bringing in new species to the hobby as well. And I also frequent theprayingmantis.co.uk. That's run by Andrew Mitchell. Mitch, he's wonderful as well.
He's a really good bloke.
He's awesome, and he's got great photography as well. And then when it comes to tarantulas, I really love Spar Spiders. Luke over there at Spar Spiders is fantastic.
He's so good.
I did like a bulk order from him and got, I think, 8 spiders. Fantastic, and they all came really nicely packaged and healthy, and I've ordered before as well. And then Bugnut, I got my Pandinus Imperator from them, and that's the first place I've seen them in the UK for quite a while. So I think that was really lucky. So they're another really fantastic one, especially with their decor. Yeah, that's I think, and as well, I think the Cheeky Mantis, she's slowed down with her selling now, but she was another really good one if she makes a return.
It was a shame when she closed down her online store.
Yeah.
So I messaged the page about a month ago, but then I realised that she wasn't. So I found out about a month or two ago that she stopped trading online.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate, but hopefully she'll be back eventually.
Okay, so my pick choice, one would be eBay, actually, because you do get some deals on there. You've always got to check the reviews, of course, because if the reviews are good, then it's worth a lot. Because I've had roaches on there, and 9 times out of 10, I usually get extra roaches, and they're always of good value.
Yeah.
less postage, and two, you do get a better sense of your money sometimes, because I've bought for about £20 a massive colony of dubia roaches, and well, to be fair, there were too many, so I actually made money off the dubia roach colony while having enough for myself to start off a breeding colony as well. For my second would definitely be the spider shop for spiders. Yes, their prices can be a bit temperamental because you can sometimes get cheaper alternatives, but you know you're getting the customer service because they will talk to you and give you everything you need to know if you don't know where to go. They have great advice, and the delivery is always spot on because, well, it's always like every time I spoke to them, it's just been amazing, and they've always been really super super helpful. Apart from when I was 15 and they sent me a condom.
Oh yeah, I remember those spider shop condoms.
And for my third one, I don't actually know. I use quite a lot of websites. So it's eBay, the spider shop. Oh, Venomous Visions.
Venomous Visions
Yeah.
is fantastic as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because I speak to how can I forget his name? Tony. I speak to Tony Webb quite a lot because he, believe it or not, Tony Webb has actually helped with that Morgan Freeman documentary about animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Actually seen that. It's on a table out. He actually helped with that. He helped supplying the animals, giving information, setting it up. He was a big thing to do with stuff like that in the actual show. And I've bought many centipedes off him in the past, and they've all been super healthy. You talk to him; he's a really generous person, genuine, sorry, and he's always free for a chat. And he gives you all the information. He can tell you to set up, and he's not just out there to make money. He genuinely cares about what he's doing, because if he knows where you can get, he doesn't always just send you a link to his website. He does actually offer you other websites and stuff to get like care stuff from them. It's not all like he enjoys what he's doing and he puts time and effort into it. It's not just a money bag for him.
Exactly.
He's got a pretty good website, and I expect he does make good money from it. But the time and effort he puts into it, and he's just such a good person, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I got my Pseudoglomerus magnifica, so my emerald roaches. I got them from Venomous Visions after looking forever for them, and they were fantastic, and they arrived really helpfully.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add like a caveat on this, the discussion of like where we buy stuff from and where we're getting things. I see quite a lot of comments from people when they're like, oh, I ordered so and so spider, and then they're very disappointed with the size of the spiders when they come. Just get a ruler out, guys. Like,
Yeah.
like when say for instance a spider shop, I think they have a lot of slings and they have to move them. So they buy them and they move them because it costs to keep slings.
Yeah.
It costs time. Time is very expensive. So if a sling says it's 0.5 to 1 centimeter, that's tiny. So just be prepared for that. Get yourself some little small containers. But if you want something a bit bigger, all of these suppliers that we've talked about have the bigger spiders.
Definitely, yeah.
You just have to be prepared to spend 60
It's just
quid
a
on
little
one.
bit more.
Yeah.
But again, I think you're paying for somebody who's raised that from a sling. You're paying for all of that time that's gone into raising it, and you get to skip maybe a couple of years of growth to enjoy
Definitely.
a spider at a larger size.
Absolutely, especially when we talk about like a Grammostola pulchripes. You know,
You wait for 5 years for them to get any size.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're going to expect to be spending some money on those, especially if you don't want to buy wild caught. But I expect we'll have a conversation about wild caught on another podcast.
Well, I've had a
I have
wild
some
caught
strong opinions.
scorpion from the spider shop, and I ended up about 30 scorpions, which I traded with Venomous Visions, and I got a here. I think it's like, what was it? Over Thai forest scorpion when it first arrived in the UK. So I was one of the first people in the whole of the UK to own that species of scorpion. So yeah, now you can get it a bit easier, but they're not the easiest to get. So yeah, I was one of the first people in the UK to own one.
I'm just gonna see. You know, we were talking earlier about how Balfouri sort of touch each other and
yeah.
talk. I'll see if it'll come up on the screen. but there they are.
Oh, hello.
It's nice and warm here at the moment, so they're kind of like out. One's on the top, and the others are just sort of chilling. So people who are listening to this and not watching it, I have got 3 Balfouri just sort of hanging out, having a bit of a cuddle party.
We all have a
Shady,
cuddle.
Shady, I think you'll remember that. You'll recognise those Balfouri. So those are the Balfouri that Shady gave me,
Really?
which was really nice. Really nice of her. But yeah. Sorry, I just thought, since we were talking about communals, and I just looked over and I'm like, oh, they're all just sort of chilling, which is kind of cool.
I've not really seen much of Balfour communals. I mostly read about it, so it's really lovely to be able to see.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be filming it later on today. They're my babies now, Shady. So for people listening, Shady's put it in the comments that they're hers.
I put it on screen.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm going to be doing a rehousing later and put them into like a slightly bigger sort of thing. Give them a little bit of space, but not too big. That'll be coming out soon.
Okay. Right. So before we wrap this up, is there anything else anyone would like to add?
What are we doing? So are we plugging each other's YouTube channels?
Go ahead. Let's do whatever you want to do.
Finn, do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. I've not posted any videos yet. I mostly run off Instagram, which is literally just exotic.emporium.uk, and I just share my photography mostly on there.
Yeah, and I have to say, the photography is brilliant. It's really good. I followed you, and I love some of your pictures you've got. So
thank you very much.
Really good. Wes, do you have anything? Do you have a page, or because you're on TikTok as well, aren't you, Wes?
I was.
You were.
I don't really I don't have animals anymore. So I can't keep them anymore. So I don't really have anything to plug apart from this podcast. Subscribe to here, share it to some friends, get some views in, and just get people interacting a bit more.
Exactly.
I think it's the podcast. I'm more than happy to have people on it.
Such a wonderful hobby, and there's so many lovely people.
Definitely.
That we're always willing to help people as well, and if people wanting to start keeping.
And also, you don't need to actually have any of the animals to enjoy this hobby.
Except look at this podcast, for example.
Yeah,
exactly. For years before I got into it, I was just watching YouTube videos of people unboxing and their enclosures and things before I took that step myself.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm gonna shamelessly plug myself. So I have Somerset Spiders. So I'm YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page and stuff. And
that's how I found you.
Yeah. And I post a video every other Friday. So, and shorts. Just little shorts of like feeding and things on my YouTube channel, but the videos are a little bit unhinged. I'm generally having an argument with myself, but hopefully there's. I also try to include some really good educational information about temperament of the spiders, how we feed them, how we care for them, how their environment should be when we set them up. So yeah, it'd be really cool if I got some more. If you guys wanted to come and hang out a bit more,
come hang out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that's everything, guys. Is there anyone in the comments will say anything or add anything for us to talk about quickly, or we're open to discussion? Let's give that a minute. Can I reply? Sorry, I'm eating chocolate raisins.
I think that's a wrap, don't you think, Wes?
That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Yep. It's been really wonderful.
Well, you're more than welcome to join next week and the week after. The most leading people. Next week, I'm going to try to get someone from a business or just a special guest. So I'm currently talking to Ants on a Rock about coming on the podcast.
Oh, Thomas.
Really cool.
Yeah, Thomas, yeah.
That'd be really cool.
It's just catching him.
Yeah, no, that would be really cool. I can also have a chat to for the future, like have a chat to Phil from Incredible Inverts and
yeah,
all those other things.
Be a good chat.
That would be lovely. Well, thank you for having me.
Okay.
See you
Thanks
next
for
week.
joining.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lovely
see you
to
next
meet
week,
you guys.
guys. Right, thanks for joining, everyone. Bye.